as a Zoom moderator and co-chair today. Today on International Literacy Day, we bring together children from different countries, speakers, and guests of honor who are working to amplify the voices of children on key decisions that concern them, especially the links between literacy and education, children's rights, and the global sustainable development goals. We will also celebrate the global launch of new UNESCO Voices of Future Generations books in English and French. Today's event will be chaired by Professor Marie-Claire Cordonnier-Seger. Professor Marie-Claire is the Leverhulme Trust Visiting Professor at the University of Cambridge, Senior Director of the Center for International Sustainable Development Law, and a full Professor of International Law in the University of Waterloo, Faculty of Environment. She's also a co-editor, together with advocate Wayne Garnons-Williams, of a new book on the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Through the United Nations, she advises countries' law, governance, and sustainable development. She has published over 25 books and 120 papers on law, sustainability, and intergenerational justice, edits a series of books and Cambridge University Press volumes, and serves on the boards of several law journals and on the juries of several scholarships, prizes, and foundations. She is also vice chair of the Voices of Future Generations Children's Rights Initiative International Commission and laureate of the Justitia Fundamentum Regnorum Award in 2016 and the Weir-Mantry International Justice Award in 2020, among other distinctions. So with that, I leave the floor to Professor Marie-Claire.
Thank you so much, Ella, and thank you to all of the wonderful children and all of the experts, specialists, and colleagues who have joined us here online for this exciting event. It is World Literacy Day, and today we come together to celebrate children who are really quite extraordinary individuals and members of their community in this online international roundtable on education, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and the world's Sustainable Development Goals. I'm particularly honored and indeed delighted to be highlighting the work of the Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative in this roundtable. Since its inception under the leadership of our former patron, His Excellency, the Vice President of the International Court of Justice, Judge Christopher Gregory Weir-Mantry of Sri Lanka, the Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative has had more than 21 books published and disseminated globally, with more stories being written and illustrated by incredible child authors all around the world today. And with the voices and the ideas and the inspiration of these books and of children's voices on sustainability being communicated by the child authors who, including those joining us today, have taken up leadership in their own communities and worldwide on behalf of the Sustainable Development Goals. Ella, I'm going to flag for you and Allison and the team that we have one of those child ambassadors who is currently trying to get a link sent to him. He doesn't seem to be able to find his link. Nico Broman is online and hoping to join us. So, books have been translated into several of the United Nations languages. Through this initiative, we aim to give a voice to all children worldwide to express their insightful and creative visions about how they would like their futures to be. In this online international roundtable, we help to enable children and empower them to enter into inspiring dialogue with experts and global leaders, all of you who are here with us today, in essence, and those who will be receiving the materials and the recording later, in order to engage and bring about a positive change in the fields of children's rights and sustainable development. These are crucial questions for today. Children's rights all over the world are yet to be respected, and sustainable development goals are still a long way from being realized. Everything that we can do to inspire and engage and share these crucial priorities will make a difference. And it is the challenge of our century that we are facing, and that difference has to be made. Amplifying children's voices is crucial for a sustainable future, and children's access to writing and speaking mediums plays an important role in achieving this, as well as ensuring that they have access to quality education and literacy in all languages, especially Indigenous languages. Today, we will focus on how children can contribute to implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 3 on access to quality education in a manner that realizes the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. We will focus on how children, as voices for future generations in an intergenerational dialogue like this one, can promote climate justice and respond to the twin threats of climate change and biodiversity loss, as well as the crucial priorities of Indigenous rights and children's rights globally, and access to education. And we will discuss what kind of future children worldwide want to inherit and how children's voices can help bring this to life. I am deeply honored and delighted to be co-chairing this panel together with Ella Martinez, whose leadership has been, without fail, absolutely marvelous in helping us to arrange this roundtable. And I am especially happy that she will be able to help us to chair the session with the child authors who are joining us online together with the child ambassadors. I'm now very happy to introduce the opening remarks of Professor Anne Skelton from the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child. Professor Skelton is an international expert on children's rights, a law professor, and also a children's rights lawyer in South Africa for over 30 years, where she played a leading role in children's law reform. She pioneered strategic litigation on children's rights for the Center for Child Law and appeared in many landmark cases. Her global influence has been recognized through several awards, including Honorary World's Children's Prize and the Juvenile Justice Without Borders Award. She's chaired many international drafting bodies and experts committees, including the one on the Abidjan Principles on States' Obligations regarding public education and the regulation of private education. So, without further ado, we're going to play the intervention that Professor Anne Skelton from the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child has kindly sent us for this event. Thank you.
Greetings. Sorry that I can't be with you in person. The reason is that I'm a member of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, and we're meeting for the whole of September. The committee is made up of 18 children's rights experts from around the globe, and we meet in Geneva 3 times a year for a month each time to check the progress of countries towards achieving children's rights. We also meet with children, and we know that children are working as children's rights defenders in many parts of the world. Just like the child authors that are coming together in this roundtable, many children have told the committee how important they consider the environment to be and how concerned they are about the dangers to the planet. We've taken this to heart, and we are currently working on a general comment on children's rights and the environment with a focus on climate change. So what is a general comment? It's when the committee goes into detail to explain a particular area of children's rights. What's special about the environment that has made it a children's rights issue? Well, first, it's important to say that the Convention on the Rights of the Child directly speaks about the dangers and risks of environmental pollution as part of children's right to good health. And we know that the health of children, and especially babies, is at risk. Children's mental health too, because they are worried about the future. Speaking of the future, the project Future Generations links to a second reason why the environment is a children's rights issue. Of course, it is very important to remember that children very much belong to our current generation, but they will be alive longer, and so they are representatives of future generations whose interests should also be protected. A third very important reason is that children have made environmental issues a children's rights concern by learning and reading and writing about the environment and speaking up about it. Some have even been protesting to demonstrate just how important they think it is. I have shared the links to the important work of the child authors participating in the Roundtable with the committee, and we are certainly paying attention to these insights and creative ideas about the environment coming from children themselves. Warmest wishes to all of you. Keep up the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you to Professor Skelton for those inspiring words to open this lovely event. I am now deeply honored to introduce a representative of the Canadian Commission for UNESCO, Secretary General. And in particular, I would like to especially thank one of the world's leading specialists and kind mentors in this area, Ms. Isabelle Levert-Chiasson, who is joining us today from the Canadian Commission for UNESCO, where she serves as Education Program Officer. She has extensive experience in youth engagement, partnership development, monitoring and evaluation, and project management in education and related fields, both in Canada and abroad. And at UNESCO, she is currently responsible for the national coordination of the absolutely brilliant, and I've seen it at work myself in many communities, UNESCO Schools Network, which engages young Canadians in UNESCO education programs across the country and abroad. She also provides advice to various levels of government related to the UNESCO education sector and supports the permanent delegation of Canada to UNESCO. Isabelle, it's lovely to see you here. Thank you again for all the work that you do and for the wonderful support and kindness and generosity that you have shown the children in this initiative. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marie-Claire. What a beautiful introduction. I feel honored and privileged to be part of this virtual circle amongst all of you, and of course, amongst the child ambassadors and authors. I am joining you from Ottawa, unceded Algonquin territory. And it is a beautiful sunny day here. My kids got on the school bus this morning. So as you are probably aware, in many countries around the world, children are starting school. I'm sure many of you on the call are trying to balance that with this event. And I feel so honored and privileged that my kids get to go to school every day, and they get to learn, and they get to write, and they get to learn as a community. But that right is not available for every child. A recent report from UNESCO, the UN Education Scientific Cultural Organization, recently stated that over 244 children don't have access to education. That is staggering and really unacceptable. That is why this event is so important and so dear to my heart. And just in the context that in Canada, we're not immune to this either. So I work in the field of education sector where we really try to bring those global priorities from UNESCO to Canada. But in Canada, if we also think about the last few years during the pandemic, school closures happened over 31 weeks and counting in a lot of jurisdictions. And according to UNESCO data, that puts us in line with Italy, Romania, Ethiopia, Cambodia, and Afghanistan. And reading scores have dropped amongst young children, and community organizations are also in many regions of the country, in particular Quebec, are worried about dropout rates. So we have to not forget and take for granted that education is a right, and we need to fight for it. And we need to ensure that it's available for everyone in our communities. So to bring attention to this pressing issue, UNESCO and the United Nations is actually organizing a global summit, Transforming Education Summit in New York from September 16th to the 19th. There's a big focus on youth. September 16th is actually a youth mobilization day. And I bring it to your attention because I know not everyone can travel to New York City, but much of it will be available online. And there will also be a youth declaration and manifesto that you can still currently consult and advise on. And I think who better than these young people that are involved from Voices of Future Generation to get their voices at this international stage. Really, we hope that the outcomes of this summit will be to, again, reinforce this international commitment to education, support greater engagement around it, and also there'll be a vision statement from the Secretary General. So really, as we celebrate today, International Literacy Day, let us remember, as I said, that it's a responsibility for everyone to ensure that we have access to education. Every child has the right to education. Every child has the right to learn and write. And I don't need to tell you that because around this circle, I know we have very exceptional young people that not only have those skills, but have been able to share their stories in connection with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Now, I just want to take a little pause to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, I know that all the kids on this call knows what they are because they wrote a book connected to them. But I think it's interesting to think about how they were created. So the UN Sustainable Goals, just like all UN agencies, are all built on consensus. And in premise, each country, member state, has one vote. And for these decisions to be made, we need to build consensus and all agree upon the language and the outcomes. So the Sustainable Development Goals were built based on global consultations and also consensus from all member states from the United Nations. So just think about that. 194 countries got together and agreed upon a roadmap for our planet. So that shows how important they are, because that's realizing of what we want for our future. And it was already highlighted in the video from Voices of Future Generation that, you know, there was a beautiful quote from I forget the name of the youth, but she said it so brilliantly that, like, you know, why environmental sustainability is so important to us is because we're inheriting this planet and we're not responsible for what previous generations have done. So that's why we really need to all work together towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And we can actually tell our governments and adults and higher beings, you've agreed to this. So why are you not acting upon it? Why are you not taking action? I actually had a beautiful conversation yesterday with a teacher actually from UNESCO school. And one of our big themes that we do in schools is climate change education. So I'm sure many of you talk about climate change. There's no denying it, and most school curriculums will talk about it. But the teacher was saying we need to actually change the language. We need to now talk about environmental crisis. We're no longer just talking about how human activities impact our planet. We're actually in a crisis mode where we also need to start really shifting our actions so that we actually let a chance for their planet to heal, and so that we have clean air, fresh water, etc. So I just want to reiterate how I feel so honored and privileged. And I want to say a special thank you to the child ambassadors and authors that are on this call. And if you want to learn more about the UNESCO Schools Network, I'll take a plug in. If your school is not part of it, you can always reach me. I can give you coordinates and who in your country is the national coordinator. It's a great way just to connect globally on these issues that you're probably already passionate about. It's the largest school network in the world. And it brings me heart and joy to hear the stories of all the great things that are happening in classrooms around the globe. A quick example that we're doing is actually for the Decade of Indigenous Languages. We've also been gathering promising practices in different global regions, and we also create spaces, virtual spaces like this, so where we get to hear from classrooms, teachers, and students of what they're doing in their classrooms. So hope to send an invitation to you for that event also in October. But thank you so much. Merci, Miigwech.
Thank you very much, Isabel, for that both inspiring and also connecting and engaging keynote. You offered direct ways that the children, the families, the teachers, the organizations on this call that are working together with global leaders also on this call can actually engage and can support each other. And I'm certain that all of the child authors and also the team and child ambassadors who are here will be both honored and thrilled to join the UNESCO Schools Network. I understand you're already using their books and their materials and speeches in the educational work you do. So it would be quite inspiring for them. I remember one of the children telling us at the Children's Summit that was held alongside the Sustainable Development Goals meeting in New York when they were agreed in 2015. And I remember one of the children saying to us at that time, something that some of you don't understand is that children listen to older children, maybe more than we listen to politicians, our teachers, even our parents or celebrities. Kind of all the parents and celebrities are in the same group as the even or, but, and he was trying to make the point that if older children mentor and engage with younger children in a way that is supportive and that is showing the way to express your voice, there is so much that can be accomplished and so much change that can take place. And I think that the work that UNESCO does and the work that you, Isabel, and others are spearheading is exactly offering that opportunity through the Schools Network, including to the child ambassadors and child authors with us today, to be able to be those now older children engaging with the younger ones and inspiring them and being heard by them in the same way that they are in their climate strikes. I'm now going to turn over the chair to Ella, who is going to be chairing the story session on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, where I know that we have some incredible young people, young leaders who are joining us from the UK, from Canada, from Indigenous nations across Canada, from Arabia and from Germany and from many, many different countries. Even Australia. I really hope that's a video because it's about 3 a.m. for the child author from Oceania. So I'm greatly looking forward to this next roundtable, and I want to thank again Ella, as well as I believe Rehema Kibuki, who is now online from Africa, joining us, and all the other children for their willingness to be leaders in this area and to engage with all of us older people and with our extensive online audience and all of the people who are waiting to receive these materials and this recording. So thank you, and I'm turning over to you, Ella.
Thank you so much, Mary Claire, and thank you so much, Isabel, for your inspiring words. I now have the pleasure to introduce this story session, Achieving the SDGs, where wonderful child authors and child ambassadors will share their speeches on how we can achieve the SDGs. Beginning this story session, we have Master Saud Ahmad Al-Kabi, one of our child authors from Arabia. Saud is a chess lover from the Al-Qudwa school. He's a companion of words who loves to read and write. He believes that the world is for everyone and that all are equal and deserve to live in peace. Saud's book, Chess Game, features two themes that are very important for future generations: the elimination of racial discrimination and SDG 10, reduction of inequalities. It also addresses the issue of bullying that some children face in their daily lives. So, Master Saud, the floor is yours.
First, hi, hello all. I hope you are in good health and lasting happens. Happy to be among you today. I am Saud Ahmed Al-Kabi. I hope my words will leave a positive impact on your souls. Be always smiling. First, regarding goal 4, quality education is one of the goals that I always focus on. I try to post about education and its importance and how it changed my life for the better. In my story, The Chess Game Secret, I chose to talk about the goal and focused on teaching chess. Education is not limited to the subject we study in school, and Saud was trying to learn the game of the chess, and the way he is interested in education, and there are many centers in which children learn different skills. So by writing influential stories, we can influence others and encourage them to learn, and we can extend helping hand to others. We contribute to the education of needy children by donating to them, as this is one of their rights. In my opinion, children can write stories about promoting climate justice because children and adults must be educated about this issue, and because children's voices are influential and may have a major role in eliminating climate threats. And as a voice of future generations, I will endeavor to write a story that addresses this issue, because I would like, in order to explore this matter in depth. I always imagine the future that I aspire to be a future full of achievements, an attractive and positive environment, an educated and productive society without pollution or waste. Its technologies and make our lives easier and with great flexibility, and help us on our development, and we use clean energy in it. Job opportunity are available to those who deserve them. So we must strive to get rid of everything that threatens our environment and our lives. And we call on the world to preserve a tolerant world full of justice and equality. And in the end, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present what I have. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and everyone who have encouraged me from Voices of Your Generation team. Bye.
Thank you so much, Saud, for your wonderful speech and encouraging message.
Thank you.
I now have the pleasure to introduce Ms. Adeline Newman-Ting, Voices of Future Generations Global Indigenous Child author. Addie is the junior editor of Harmony Online Journal and a student of St. Michael's University School in Victoria, British Columbia. She's a Gold Award-winning Indigenous child author of Finding the Language in the Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative. On her father's side, she is Kwakwak and Coast Salish Indigenous, as well as English, Irish, and Scottish. And on her mother's side, she is Chinese from Taiwan. Her Indigenous name is Kesujilak, meaning leader of people, and her Chinese name is Ting Li Wen, meaning pretty flower cloud. Addie enjoys dancing, baking, jump roping, and singing, and she is an avid reader, writer, and artist who loves to spend time with her puppy, Harriet. Addie hopes that her books will raise awareness about the climate and the importance of saving Indigenous languages and cultures. Addie could not attend, but she kindly shared a video with us. So let's hear it. We cannot hear the video. We can see it, but we cannot hear it. Just give us a few minutes to share again.
Give me a few minutes. I'm having some technical issues here. Why don't we get back to Addie's video and maybe you can introduce Nico here.
Of course, wonderful, okay. So I believe Nico has already joined us, so I'm gonna go ahead and introduce him. Master Nico Roman is a Voices of Future Generations child ambassador. He is a junior editor of Harmony Online Journal and a scholar at Winchester College in Winchester, UK. As a UN Child Ambassador for the SDGs, he is working to help protect nature and the rights of future generations globally. He edits Nico's Natural World, a youth blog, hosts online eco-seminar mini-series about the SDGs, and helps to organize Cambridge's climate strikes. His stories have been published by Loonspark, winning first place worldwide in 2021. And his Heron team won the 2021 UK Young Environmentalist of the Year award. He has starred in several drama productions in the UK and Canada, and he won the overall 2022 King's College School Cambridge Scholarship Prize for Outstanding Academic Achievement, Global Education and Sustainability. He studies English, French, German, Spanish, and Latin, plays the clarinet, sax, and piano, and enjoys history, geography, architecture, fencing, and sailing. Nico, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say thank you to all our past speakers. They were amazing. I really enjoyed each of your speeches, and I found it really awe-inspiring. So thank you very much. It's brilliant to be able to join you for this important roundtable on International Literacy Day, standing up for our future. As you know, I'm Vice Chair of the Global Youth Council on Science, Law and Sustainability, and Junior Editor of the online journal Harmony, and also a UN Child Ambassador for the SDGs. As part of this commitment, I edited an online blog, Nico's Natural World, with over 9,000 impressions and hundreds of followers, and recently a scholar at Winchester College. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child promises us a healthy environment, and education about nature, and guarantees us a voice in decisions that concern us. Our future and the future of all species on Earth concern us. I might be only a child, but I know that advancing the world's SDGs, especially SDG 13 on climate action and SDG 15 to protect life on land, makes the difference between a terrible global nightmare and the future we want. As we know, many SDG 13 and 15 targets are unlikely to be met. According to the UN, climate change is becoming more dangerous than ever, with polar ice melting, seas rising, and huge droughts covering the globe. Land degradation and desertification is getting worse. Biodiversity loss is occurring at an alarming rate. Invasive species are taking over, and illegal poaching and trafficking of wildlife continues. Destructive human practices prevent global efforts to reduce emissions and to protect and restore vital ecosystems and species. From 2000 to 2022, emissions rose by over 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we experienced the hottest years on record, with thousands of floods and wildfires worldwide, largely due to human fossil fuels and GHG emissions. More than one-fifth of the Earth's land area was degraded, largely due to desertification, cropland expansion, and urbanization. The most irreversible human impact on nature is species extinction. The Red List Index measures the risk of extinction, with 1 for no threat and 0 for all species are extinct forever. The Red List has deteriorated from 0.82 in the 1990s to 0.73 in 2020. On these key indicators, we're going backwards, everyone. It's really important right now to speak out in order to help everyone to wake up. We live in a climate emergency, and it will get worse if we can't all work together rather than restarting all the conflicts and harmful practices and calling it recovery. This is not just for humans. Nature needs our help. We live in a biodiversity emergency with thousands of species already lost and many more at risk of going extinct forever unless we can all help to protect nature recovery when we plan for economic recovery. Climate change and biodiversity losses are real, dangerous, and urgent. As children, we are trying very hard to be heard, locally and globally, to stop the suffering and losses from getting even worse. The CRC promises us a healthy environment, and this right means that willful destruction of natural habitats without any regard for the planet and animals, nor for all future generations, just needs to stop. We must make sure our leaders tackle the climate and biodiversity crisis with the same strength and unity they eventually reached for the coronavirus pandemic, instead of ignoring it until everything is just too late. If we want to make a difference, we must scale up our knowledge, our education, our actions, and our voices. It's not all bad news. There are some encouraging global trends. Some kinds of forest loss are slowing down, more key biodiversity areas are being protected, and ecosystems are providing services to thousands of communities worldwide. And some of these areas are slowly greening back. During the pandemic, nature did get a bit of a rest, but it's not enough. As kids, we need scientists and all leaders to help find new ways to stop the urgent threats of climate change and biodiversity loss together, just as has been promised in the SDGs. There is a lot that we can still do to turn things around. We need new guardian laws, institutions and networks on all levels to stop climate change and protect nature. We need better local and global education and action programs so that we can all help to protect the planet, plants and wildlife that have started to return during the lockdowns to stay safe. We all need to plant for our planet. The greener our world, the stronger our soils, and the more habitat for our species. To achieve any of this, education and literacy are really, really important across all languages and cultures. The basic education needs of many children today are not being met. COVID-19 and wars being waged have made it worse. World literacy events like this one, bringing people together, writing books, are proving, all of us are proving together that even the smallest child can make a big difference towards a more sustainable world for us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nico, for a very insightful and honest speech. I will now try to share Adi's video and see if we can hear it. Seems like we will not be able to. We will try again later then. All right. I am happy to introduce Ms. Sarah Thomas, Voices of Future Generations child author from Arabia. Saira is a bubbly, friendly 12-year-old girl from Sharjah, United Arab Emirates. Her favorite hobby is reading, and she aspires to become a world-renowned author. Her dream is to popularize vegetarianism because she believes that it can make the world a better place. Her book, The Green Warrior, encourages young readers to begin to think critically about nature conservation and believe in their abilities to make a difference. Saira is ready to fight for a more sustainable and greener planet. Her second book, The Adventures of Alco Baterio, was launched at the Sharjah Children's Reading Festival in 2022. This story that stresses the importance of recycling batteries won her the Coveted Environmental Excellence School Award in 2021. Saira continues to use her writing skills to raise awareness about social and environmental issues. Saira, you're welcome to take the floor.
Hello, greetings from Dubai to each one of you on this wonderful occasion. It is truly an honor to be here today to talk about my newly released book, The Green Warrior, which includes SDGs, gender equality, life on land, and partnership for the goals. The protagonist of my story is Salma, an Emirati girl who is a lover of nature and animals. At school, she learns about Arabian oryx, the national animal of UAE. She is intrigued by the fact that they used to roam the Arabian deserts, just like the camels, until early 1970s, by which time they were declared extinct from wild due to excessive hunting. Luckily for the species, the concerned authorities intervened on time and saved them from total extinction through captive breeding. Now that the Arabian oryxes are being slowly reintroduced back into the wild, Salma is determined to lure them back into her neighborhood. By applying SDG 15, Life on Land, she decides to bring greenery to her desert neighborhood. Her friends and her neighbors come together to help her in this goal, emphasizing the importance of SDG number 17, Partnership for the Goals. Of course, Salma's journey was not without failures and problems. When she failed, Salma was mocked that girls can never achieve anything, that they shouldn't try to change the world with their silly ideas. Instead of being deterred by these discouraging words, Salma and her friends become more determined to uphold SDG number 15, gender equality, to prove that girls certainly have the power to make our dreams come true. Salma trudges on despite the challenges, with the support of her friends and family, to emerge victorious when her neighborhood slowly turns into a green oasis, enticing the Arabian oryxes to roam freely in the safe habitat. This is a synopsis of my story, The Green Warrior. You can read the full story at thevfg.org or get your copy of the book from amazon.com. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Highness Sheikh Hissa bint Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum, our Goodwill Ambassador. Your Highness, thank you for giving us a chance to express our concerns, to raise our voice, and for making us believe that our voices will be heard. I would also like to thank the Emirates Literature Foundation, VFG Arabia, the VFGCI, and the volunteers and staff who patiently worked with me to make my dream come true. And finally, Miss Iman Salim, the wonderful illustrator who brought my story to life through her exceptional skills. Thank you. On the occasion of International Literacy Day, let us remember that literacy is the armor that is essential for us to survive in this world. The day we are all armored up is the day we will start thriving instead of just surviving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saida. Thank you for sharing with us about your book, The Green Warrior, which is one of the books that will be launched today during this event. We really hope that everyone will feel encouraged to read it once it is published. I will now introduce another child speaker. Just give me 1 second. I'm not sure if Wezi has been able to join us. If not,
Rehema
then
is here.
Yes, I am.
perfect. So I will introduce Ms. Rehema Kibugi, one of our child authors from Africa. She's the junior editor of Harmony Online Journal and lives in Nairobi, Kenya. She's the head of the journalism club at her school and a strong debater. Rehema is a Gold Award-winning child author in the UN Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative. Her story, Their Children Who Saved the Mangroves, speaks about the importance of mangrove forests and how they protect shorelines from damaging storms and winds, waves and floods, and provide income to the local people. In her story, as well as her advocacy and writing, Rehema hopes to inspire other children in Kenya, Africa, and further to speak about important matters through stories for even more children to read and enjoy. Rehema, welcome.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me today. My name is Rahema. I am from Nairobi, Kenya, and today I'll be talking about my two favorite SDGs, which is SDG 4 and SDG 4, which is quality education and climate justice. So I'm going to be talking about that and how it affects Kenya as a country. So as a country, the Kenyan government mainly prioritizes public schools to provide quality education. In 2003, the then government introduced the free primary education program. They later introduced free secondary education in 2008, meaning the Kenyan government has made free primary and secondary education a priority. The government fully funds all public schools, making sure that all resources needed are available. But in the past years, the Ministry of Education announced that the original education system was to be phased
Rehema,
out.
could you
Yeah.
speak a little bit louder? I think some of the attendees cannot hear. Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying, the original education system, the 844, consists of 8 years of primary school, 4 years of high school, and 4 years of university. It is being phased out by the new education system, CBC, which stands for Competency-Based Curriculum. The CBC is based on the needs and the potential of the learning instead of the 844 system, which emphasizes of the traditional chalk-to-talk teaching. This means that the CBC system has bigger opportunities to educate learners about rising issues like climate change. This therefore merges SDG 4, quality education, and SDG 13, climate justice, together. Under the National Framework Convention on Climate Change, Article 6 requires incorporation of issues like climate change into learning and development. The Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, together with the UN Climate Change Learning Partnership, is in the process to start a national climate change learning strategy, meaning that Kenya is on track to teaching children about climate change and its related issues. We have already seen this goal being implemented in the CB system, where the learners are being educated on climate change issues in various subjects. Thank you very much for your time. I will now hand back over to Ella.
Thank you so much, Rahema, for your speech and for being here with us today, despite all of the commitments, academic commitments that all of you children have. We will now try to play Addie's speech again. I believe that we are now able to do so.
Hello, my name is Alan Newman Ting. My traditional name is Kesu Glakwa. My Chinese name is Ting Liwen. On my father's side, I'm Ko-Salish, Kwakwaka'wakw, English, Irish, and Scottish. My mother's side, I'm Chinese from Taiwan. I'm the author of the book Finding the Language. I think that it is cool how my book is now in both official languages of Canada, but I think it would be better, since the book is about how a young girl finds her lost language, if it could also be published in Kwakwala. I wrote a book about how a young girl finds her lost language and how it empowered her. Not many people know Kwakwala, and most schools don't have an option to take an Indigenous language. At my school, the middle school teaches French, which is mandatory, and offers Mandarin, which is my other traditional language. At the high school, they continue to offer French and Mandarin, but they have also added Spanish and Japanese. They offer 4 separate languages, but none are Indigenous language of the land my school resides. It makes it hard for people like me to learn traditional language. My Ambo, grandpa, was sent to residential school where he was not only not allowed to speak Kwakwala, but would be punished for it. As a result, he lost his language and was not able to teach my dad. And as my dad wasn't taught, he was never able to teach me. Indigenous languages are very important because they connect the people to culture and identity. We should be working on preserving the language and increasing the number of speakers. The more people that learn the language, the stronger the culture becomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Addie, for your very important message about Indigenous language and for sharing your story and your family's story. I now have the honor to introduce another child speaker present today, Master Abdullah. Do we have Abdullah present? I believe so. Okay. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Abdullah is a how often and the floor is yours. From all
Yeah. Thank you. My name is Abdullah Ismail Abu Shabab. My name is Abdullah Ismail Abu Shabab. I am in grade 4 and I am 10 years old. I am from Jordan and I would like to talk about my beginnings in the uh, I love to read a lot. In the beginning I was writing very short stories. I was afraid to participation in the voices of future generation middle each want one. So I said to my favorite, what do not try. No, I just want to try. I want win. Yes, I was just so excited to win. But I didn't want to talk. But I didn't want to be a normal story. I wanted to be special. I have to find inspiration to write my story. So many ideas have crossed my mind. I think the most important way that we children can can have can ha- help spread awareness, but but can't count climate change is but is writing stories. I like like write my I um I want write story story. It, it was talking about re- reducing inequality. SDG uh, number 10, and it the same time it was talking about gap 3 to achieve the four goal. Uh, uh, every child reigns with to my mind improve language and NERC grades immersion of for children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdullah, for your speech. Just as I'm seeing in the comments, where many people are emphasizing how much courage it takes to speak publicly in another language. So thank you so much for your courage. Thank you so much for being here today, and congratulations to you. I now have the pleasure to introduce another child author, this time from Europe, Miss Freya Tikva. She could not attend today, but her sister, Carla Tikva, will speak on her behalf through a video. Freya is a curious girl buzzing with ideas and full of energy. As a member and leader in the Cambridge Schools Eco Council, she is dedicated to campaigning for environmental issues. Growing up in different countries, she is aware of cultural differences and norms and passionately seeks to build bridges, bringing people together. As a child author, Freya thinks of her dyslexia as a special gift that provides her a chance to grow and campaign for literacy. Freya also loves illustrating her own stories. So now please give us a few minutes to share the video. Okay.
Hi, my name's Carla and I'm from Cambridge in the UK. I'm representing my sister, Freya, who wrote a book and is currently on a school trip and could not make it to this recording. Freya's book is called The Girl Who Changed Everything. It's so important that we gather on International Literacy Day to share our books and voices. When children learn to read and write, the entire world opens up for us. All children deserve this opportunity. In Freya's book, a migrant girl from Tunisia called Zina arrives at a new school in the UK and finds it difficult to make friends. She is shocked by the amount of plastic and waste produced in her school. Driven by her experience, she paints a vivid picture of the dire consequences of plastic pollution. For example, in the past at her home, she rescued a sea turtle that was choking on plastic. Her concern is strong enough to raise awareness alongside other people's. It is not only a foreign tale, but also shines a light on the problems we face in the industrialized world. Sometimes it takes a stranger to point out the obvious. Inspired by a shared sense of preserving the health of others, a group forming friendships and start an initiative to reduce plastic. They raise awareness, set challenges, and educate themselves and others. In the end, they're able to persuade the politicians to ban plastic in their town. In my sister's book, she raises awareness about stopping climate change, protecting biodiversity, and reducing plastic pollution. Freya also wants to emphasize how important it is we welcome migrants into our societies with open arms. All children should have access to a good education so that we can all have the same chances. In Freya's book, the arrival of Sina triggers a positive change. We can all learn from each other's perspectives. This helps us to identify what is truly important. Her work focuses on SDGs 11 and 12, sustainable consumption and production, and making cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Reducing plastic is an important starting point. Instead of supermarkets that have their products covered in plastic, we should buy them in plastic-free shops. Even as children, what we do matters. I sincerely hope that her story will remind us of our responsibilities and inspire us to change. She'd like to convey all her thanks to everyone who made this book possible, especially the Voices of Future Generations team, Lin Wen, the amazing illustrator, and Freya's mentors who wrote the forewords. I hope that you'll be able to read her book and share it with others. I also hope it will inspire other children and show them that we can have a voice and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Freya and Carla, for so wonderfully representing your sister today. I am now happy to introduce Master Abrar Ahmed Sirohe, Voices of Future Generations child author from Arabia. Abrar is a homeschooler living in Dubai who enjoys cycling, badminton, playing video games, and learning about different languages and cultures. His personal belief is that all should care for and nourish the earth so that the earth can continue to do so for us. He also believes that we can use our voices to unite people and that united, we can achieve anything. He hopes that this story will act as a beacon to younger generations to gather and be inspired to take charge and make change together. Abrar, over to you.
Thank you. So, my name's Abrar, and I wrote a book. It's called The Beacon, and it's about three siblings who named Rashid, Zan, and Amira, who all get led into a climate change sort of mostly focused on restoration of habitats. They get led into an adventure by a mysterious encounter. I'll let you read the book for yourself to find out what that is. But in terms of what SDGs it relates to, my story is mostly about the core principles of working together to get things done. So there's unity, obviously, there's having faith, to trust the process, and as well as other, like, sorry, one second. Just a second. Yeah. Okay, so like dedication, determination, and just working together. So on a larger scale especially, we have really no choice but to work side by side. And that's because although as young children, it may seem like alone, we can't do much, we can make lifestyle changes, but there's a lot more we have to do to get things done. So when we're working together, these core principles that are mentioned in the book of belief, bravery, and dedication. So these principles are crucial to working together. My story also includes the SDGs of life on land and life underwater, specifically the restoration of those habitats. So, for example, the desert has become very desolate and even drier and hotter than it normally is. And the water has been plagued by an oil spill, and the skies are full of smoke, pollution, smog, and all sorts of things. And really, they go on adventures to clear and restore these habitats. And when you have that drive to do something, especially when you're working together, no matter what challenges are thrown at you, like failures and roadblocks, everything, when there's a will, there's a way, everything gets done. So I am now going to read a small excerpt from my story. It was 6:15 a.m. A flash sandstorm raged through the desert. Zan, Amira, and Rashid waited in the tent for the 6-minute window in which the great gulf would appear before sunrise. The alarm rang. They peeked out of the tent to see a clearing not too far away, like the eye of the storm. Right in the middle of the clearing lay a huge tree with crystalline flowers on pearly green leaves, all atop a tree trunk with accents of sandy sandstone. The children ran into the blistering sandstorm. Zan neared the clearing, but a huge blast of wind flung him back. Amira lost her footing and got flung back too. But Rashid charged straight towards the clearing while pushing against the wind. The wind died down, and Amira and Zan rushed over, each with a key in hand. Rashid noticed that there was only 1 minute left. They looked desperately for a keyhole. As Zan climbed up the tree, it began to grow brighter and brighter until they couldn't take it anymore. Zan felt around blindly and came across 3 appropriately shaped indentations in the tree. He called to the others for the keys. Only 5 seconds remained when Zan arranged the keys in order and tried putting them in. The tree engulfed the keys and stopped growing. Time was up. So I tried my hardest to materialize the principles into keys, which you use to unlock something greater. In the end, the message that the Great Gulf gives them is that children are the beacon of hope, of unity, of bravery, and also children can be beacons for education. Children can teach each other, and like it was mentioned before, children listen well to older children or other children. So we can use our voices and we can use our stories, no matter what the language, no matter on paper, in person, we can use our voices to become beacons, to inspire people and bring them together. And we can hopefully help repair our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abrar, for a wonderful and inspiring speech. You're so very right. We have to work together and side by side to achieve the SDGs. And thank you so much for sharing with us an excerpt of your book. But I really hope that everyone will follow your words and read the book for themselves. I now have the pleasure to introduce Miss Bella Moriso Whiskey Jack, the Voices of Future Generations Indigenous Child Ambassador. Bella grew up in Saddle Lake Cree Nation on Treaty 6. She is a Voices of Future Generations Indigenous Child Ambassador, as I already said, and has used her skills as a young writer to help others understand how many First Nations families live, despite treaties being signed over 140 years ago. In early 2019, at 9 years old, Bella wrote a speech called Honor the Treaties for a school competition. She won silver in 2019 Indigenous Child Author Competition through the UNESCO Voices of Future Generations initiative. Honor the Treaties is now being translated into German and other languages. Bella has since traveled the world as a UNESCO Child Ambassador, touching the hearts of everyone she meets. In 2020, she became the youngest ever winner of the Global News Woman of Vision Canada Award, which celebrates the accomplishments of women in Alberta. Now I hand it over to Bella.
I was told I was just supposed to be here and I wasn't supposed to be saying anything. That's what my papa told me. I'm sorry, I don't have anything.
Bella, that's perfectly fine. You can add anything that you would like to say, maybe even just a hello and congratulations to the other children, especially from Arabia, who are launching their books. And then we are happy to have you online without needing to say anything more.
Okay. I'm sorry, my papa just told me that I was just participating, just being here.
No worries at all. Do you want to congratulate the others who are launching their books?
Yeah, honestly, yes, I wanted to, but it is sorry, it's just really early for me right now.
Wonderful. Thanks, Bella. And congratulations again on your wonderful work that you're doing in your community. And also, of course, for being so present and so engaged in helping to raise Indigenous youth voices worldwide. Congratulations on the prize you got too. We haven't had a chance to say that for you yet. Wonderful. Back to Ella.
Thank you, Bella, and don't worry about it. It's all fine. Thank you for being here. Okay, so we will share another video from a child author from Oceania, Jasper. Master Jasper Chin Moody is passionate about taking practical actions to protect our environment for future generations. He has marched to support student strikes for climate action in Sydney and Seattle, and he is active in encouraging other children and their families to take care of our environment. At his school in Seattle, he was a class representative on the student council, a member of his school, and actively involved in founding the climate change action. He enjoys handball, cross-country running, jiu-jitsu, and playing tennis and soccer. He lives with his parents and younger brother, who all share his passion for advocating for better policies and practical actions to protect our environment. Do we have Jasper's video? Okay. There it is.
Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to talk to you today. The SDGs are very important for maintaining the natural balance of our planet and the community. My book talks about the little things that can make the SDGs real. Rather than choosing one SDG, I chose all of them. And how do my characters, Stanley and Epic, visit worlds where each of the SDGs had become a reality? We see a world where the people achieved zero hunger. They did this by donating excess food, wasting less, and supporting local farmers. In this world, a third of all food is wasted, and over 800 million people are undernourished. We see a world that achieved good health and well-being by vaccinating families and investing in healthcare for everyone. But in our world, not enough people are getting the available vaccines. And lots of people don't have quality healthcare. We see a world that achieves quality education by focusing on educating every child in their communities. But in this world, over 600 million children don't learn as much as they should. I could go on, but I don't want to give too many spoilers. But there is a more important message in this book, which is all about the importance of partnerships, the final SDG, and in particular, partnerships for positive change. The main villain in my book owned a company called No Change Co., and he was determined to keep things the way that they were. When he saw that change was possible, he decided to make that positive change was better than keeping things the same. So he partnered up with his counterparts in all the different worlds, convincing them to change as well. And in this way, No Change Co. became Change on Ink. Indeed, I wanted to share the message that in my view, meeting the SDGs really only takes two things: a vision of the future and a willingness to accept the necessity of change, even if it is uncomfortable. I believe that many young people already have a positive attitude for change. By telling our stories, we can help show that change is possible and indeed inevitable. Thank you, Voices of Future Generations, for helping me and many others tell our story. And through these stories, try to achieve positive change around the world. So to end, I would like to read a passage from my book, where the CEO of No Change Co., Mr. Theo, decides to change to positive change. As they went inside, they saw Dr. Jane and a man in a suit. It was Mr. Theo. Dr. Jane was arguing with Mr. Theo. "You need to do something," she said. "There's nothing I can do," replied Mr. Theo. "Business is business after all." Stanley and Epic were about to call out, when suddenly someone new came into the room. It was the second Mr. Theo, the one from their world. "Stop! She has a point," the original Mr. Theo said. "I've been following these two through every world, and it is possible to change. We all just need to work together. We can achieve the Sustainable Development Goals if we just work together in partnership." And then the original Mr. Theo put his arm around the new Mr. Theo and told him about all the sustainable worlds that he had seen. He described his journey and how he was skeptical in the first world, but slowly became more and more enthusiastic about the concept of sustainability and change. He could see that change was possible, and he wanted to be part of creating a better world. Thank you again to the Voices of Future Generations team. I wish you well for your roundtable discussions.
Thank you so much, Jasper, for your speech and your video and for sharing about your book. I am now happy to introduce Ms. Sydney Winter, Amy Ms. York, Voices of Future Generations Indigenous Child Ambassador. Sydney is from the Ganada Frog clan of the Nisga'a Nation and Haisla Nation in northern British Columbia. She wrote her book at age 8 while in the 3rd grade. Sydney loves learning science and being with her best friends. She's an Earth Ranger and enjoys completing environmental saving missions to help save the animals and the planet. Sydney also loves playing soccer and basketball, dancing, swimming, horse riding, and playing the guitar. One of Sydney's dreams is to become a scientist to help the planet. The floor is yours, Sydney.
Thank you. I'm a Heathcook, Sydney Whelps Simpson will Whitby. No, I am Lodzagai. Good morning, my name is Sydney. I am from the House of Simpson and live in Nuayanch. What does quality education mean? How does it look for different people? How do we achieve fairness in our education system around the world? How do we start to build positive relationships with our education institutes? We need to have a world standard of education to make it fair. We need a worldwide standard of education to make it fair for all children and youth, for families and communities, to make it comparable for all countries. For Indigenous people, the level of success in educational system in a spectrum, some succeed and some don't. Some need extra help to learn in different ways, such as orally. The past still haunts us: residential school, boarding school, day school, and more. Recently, teachers that do not believe we are capable. All children, youth, and adults need to feel safe while doing their education. I am here today because my teacher believed in me. She knew I was capable, and I'm so thankful for her. SDG 4, quality education, had been created because we knew what education is important for our future and for positive change. If we want to meet our SDG goals by 2030 to maintain the success, we need quality education for everyone. When I work on my speeches, I have to read about the SDG goal and watch videos and then I talk with my mom, who helps me with my speech. Some children do not have this opportunity. One of my daily things to do is read a book. That I find interesting that some children do not have this opportunity. In my community, our school struggles to have teachers that want to stay in a remote community. In my community, we have one school that goes from K to 12. In my school, we learn all subjects like math and science. In my school, we also get to learn our language and culture. In my school, we are worried about the standard of education and the lack of resources to learn better. Yet in some places of the world, children do not have the choice to go to school because they can't afford it, they have adult responsibility, or there is no school in their community. I know that my school and other Aboriginal community schools are different than schools in town and cities. The towns and cities have bigger schools that offer more. What they can't offer is my culture and my role in my community. I feel safe and happy in my school. I am thankful that my community has a school with teachers so I can stay in my community to learn. The world makes no sense as to why children do not attend school. Poverty should not be a reason why children are not able to go to school. Poverty should not be a reason why children are sitting in dark little rooms with no resources. These children deserve to feel safe and happy so they can have a good future. The importance of education is to learn so we can get better jobs and support ourselves and families. And education allows us to contribute to society in a good way. And education allows us to be experts in something we love to do. Education is important because we need to know different skills for our future to make SDG for quality education a success. We need to also be addressing the rest of the SDG goals as they are all related. Our learning starts with our education system. Our education system is a part of our government and we need to learn together. No one left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sydney. That was a wonderful speech. And I'm so happy to hear that you feel comfortable in your school, which is so important for every child. Thank you so much. Indigenous children's voices are very important. So we're very, very grateful that you're here today with us. I will now introduce Master Wezi and Manuel, who could not attend, but sent a video for us to share with all of you. Wezi is a child ambassador. He's an 8th-year student at St. Ignatius College, Lusaka, Zambia. He believes that children must be loved and cared for in a family and community, and is very passionate about children's right to education. Wezi also believes that children must be taught in line with their tradition and culture, that the environment is where they live and play. Wezi loves nature and is eager to share experiences about the need to eradicate poverty, embrace both girls and boys in raising environmental awareness, and use science projects to ensure universal access to affordable and clean energy in Zambia, across Africa, and the entire world. Wezi is competent in using technology to communicate and plans to continue doing so to reach out to other children on the need for education and knowledge about their Indigenous rights.
Hello, my name is Wesi Chulugana, and here I'm about to talk about Sustainable Development Goal number 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Education is at the heart of all development in the world. SDG 4, in a nutshell, must include: number 1, lifelong learning opportunities for all from early childhood to adult education. Number 2, equitable, inclusive, and gender equality. Number 3, ensuring effective, lifelong, and acquirable of relevant knowledge, skills, and constituents. Number 4, ensuring the relevance of learning in terms of vindication and technical skills for decent work as well as for global citizenship in a plural and interconnected world. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much, Wizzy, for sending your video and for reminding us SDG 4 targets. I now have the pleasure to introduce Ms. Anissa Daniel Oniko, the Voices of Future Generations Child Ambassador. Anissa is a writer, artist, singer, and UN Child Ambassador. She's from Delta State, Nigeria. She's passionate about reading and writing, from poems to short stories, plays to prose. She's written 2 books and is the first child ever to make the long list for the Nigeria Prize for Literature, the largest literature prize in Africa and a competition traditionally for adults. Anissa is delighted to be able to invite adults and children alike into the realms of her imagination and provide fun, interesting twists, lovable characters, and hopefully inspiration to keep their noses buried in books. Over to you, Anissa.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Anissa Daniel Oniko, and I am pleased to be here today. Firstly, I want to say congratulations to all the child authors whose books we're celebrating today. I am extremely passionate about SDGs 4, 5, 14, and 15. I feel honored to be able to talk to you today about goal number 4, quality education. I like to speak about education because I'm a firm believer in its inherent power to change lives and minds. Education is a tool that should be given to everyone, because without it, it is almost impossible to achieve any kind of change. Growing up, I was taught the importance of being a lifelong learner, as well as the importance of the availability of education for everyone, no matter their income bracket, no matter their country of origin, and no matter their gender. But if quality education is so important, then why don't we have it already? Well, it involves a lot of factors. To achieve it for all, we need infrastructure, funds, stable economies, sustainable practices, power, and so much more. We also need the intersection of several other SDGs. For example, goal number 5, gender equality. As Malala Yousafzai once said, we cannot all succeed when half of us are held back. This means that if we don't give children access to the rights that they have, we're slowly corrupting our future. Literacy is very important to our mission. Without literacy, a broad education becomes difficult to achieve. And on this International Literacy Day, I remember 2 things. 1, children can change the world. The existence of this organization proves that. 2, literacy can change the world. Just think about how much power there is in a book. In literacy, there's power, and in children, there's power, so the 2 must absolutely be brought together. After all, achieving quality education will help us achieve the other goals. For example, if everyone has access to quality education, the concepts of gender equality, conservation, and climate action will be better understood and better advocated for, because education broadens the mind. So what can we do? Firstly, let us remember that children's rights are human rights, and human rights are to be fought for. We must speak out, speak up, and listen to the voices of children who are fighting for change. We must work to make quality education for all a reality and not just a dream, because quality education gives us the ability to not just change our lives, but to change our world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anissa. That was a very insightful and powerful speech. And you touched a very important point on how working on one SDG can help achieve others. Thank you to all the wonderful child authors and child ambassadors who shared with us today in this story session, Achieving the SDGs. We will now have a very special moment to launch 2 new UNESCO Voices of Future Generations books. So I will now hand over to Professor Mary Claire to help us with the launch of these amazing books.
Thank you. And I would ask if one of our guests of honor, Advocate Wayne Garnon-Williams, can also join us for this launch, because I think that as a First Nations leader and chair of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations Appeal Tribunal, as well as the principal director of the Indigenous Sovereign Trade Consultancy and his law firm, Garwell Law Professional Corporation, and as the leader of an international non-governmental organization which has helped with so many changes in the world, including new treaties to help to address exactly these issues. He is a wonderful person to invite to perhaps just say a few celebratory words for the children after I have introduced their new books. I know that Judge Marcel Sabo hoped to be with us right at this moment, and I think he's going to have to join us for the closing instead because he's currently presiding over a court case in his country, and that can happen. They don't always run according to a schedule. So I understand that there are slides that will be played as well. Thank you. And I would like to especially congratulate and celebrate together with all of the children and child ambassadors and experts and colleagues and leaders who are here online, the work of these extraordinary children whose books are being launched today in different languages. And in particular, I'm very, very happy to celebrate the book called Saud and Chess by Saud Ahmad Al-Kaabi from the Middle East, Arabia region, on inequality, goal 10, and on peace and justice, goal 16. Saud, congratulations on your wonderful work that you have made. And thank you especially. I was one of the judges who put this particular book forward above all of the others as we were just launching the initiative in Arabia. And we were so impressed by the inclusivity and the reaching across traditional boundaries that your book represented, even for a young child at that time. And I know you've been a fantastic child author and ambassador for the Voices of Future Generations. I would also like to celebrate and recognize, equally and just as important, The Green Warrior by Syra Thomas from Arabia. This gorgeous, beautiful book that she has written is being launched today on gender equality, goal 5, on life on land, goal 15, and on partnership for the goals, goal 17. Finally, but very importantly, and I think that it deserves a special congratulations and celebration, I would like to recognize 2 new books in French that are being launched today. When the Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative was first formed, my research institute was asked if we might be able to help with our lawyers who spoke many UN languages to provide free translations. I'm very happy and indeed humbled that so many of our young lawyers came forward to volunteer for this role, and that because of their deep engagement and commitment, and because of the commitment of all of the young people around the world and all of the lawyers around the world, it is possible to celebrate today on the launch of these books and on World Literacy Day 2022, the new publication in French of Canada's in Canada's second official language, although I would love to see Indigenous languages become official languages across Canada. And I think that is something we can all work on together. I'm especially happy, however, to be able to launch in French Trouver la langue by Adeline Newman-Ting, who's a global Indigenous child author on quality education, Goal 4, and climate action, Goal 13, qui est maintenant en français et pourra être partagé pas seulement avec les enfants indigènes autour du monde qui s'intéressera, mais aussi avec les enfants francophones, africains et autres qui s'intéressent, même en Québec aussi, tous les enfants qui s'intéressent et les enseignantes et les autres professeurs et experts qui vont pouvoir appuyer et vraiment promouvoir les droits des enfants dans leur langue, dans leurs diverses cultures. I'm also very, very honored, of course, to be launching at the same time L'Invention climatique cosmique by Jonah David, who is now at the age of 17, a very tall Voices of Future Generations child author alumni and a member of the Children's Initiative International Commission. His brother, Master Nico Roman, spoke earlier today. He is one of the child ambassadors of our program and incredibly active. And his book is being launched today en français, L'Invention climatique cosmique, the fourth book that he managed to get written before he graduated from the program. And it focuses on climate action, Goal 13, and innovation and infrastructure, science and technology, Goal 9. So I would like to start with my congratulations for these wonderful children. Addie, Jonah, it's so amazing to see your work starting to be translated into all of the different UN languages. And Saud, Syra, huge congratulations for your book in both Arabic and in English that is coming forward. And I would now like to ask if our guest of honor, Wayne Garnon-Williams, can just say a few words of congratulations. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Mary Claire. Yes, wonderful authors, ambassadors. Thank you so much for your consistent, inspirational contributions in tackling the major issue of our generation and your generation, climate change, the environment, pursuing those needs that you need to you further in these goals here, these sustainable development goals. So we're really, really honored to have your words be an echo going forward into the future. It's inspiring, and it's the most amazing thing that I've seen in recent years, where it's the youth that will be leading. You will be adults someday, and you will have this obligation to pass on to the next generation as well. And Mary Claire, your seed capital of developing this and nurturing this into a flourishing body of youth knowledge, and it flowering. We're seeing the flowers of this hard work of tilling the soil of knowledge and inspiration and sweat equity in bringing about these wonderful books that can be shared with so many other youth, and then propagate even more ideas, even more knowledge. So thank you, Mary Claire, and thank you to the wonderful ambassadors and the authors that put in their heart and their soul into making these wonderful books that can be shared and inspire others to write as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. I mean, if this was sort of one of those funny events I have to go to sometimes at the University of Cambridge, we would all be raising glasses of champagne or juice. But since we're here online, I think we can simply namaste and celebrate with you this wonderful moment of launching your books and having your stories go out live worldwide to reach children all over the world. And,
yes, a West Coast traditional thank you from the Coast Salish people is to raise hands, and I raise my hands in honor to you, all of your wonderful work and your wonderful words and ideas that's going to go forward and echo in ideas for future generations. Thank you.
Can we ask everyone who is online to turn on your cameras? We're going to try to get a gallery view, and we're all going to raise our hands in the West Coast traditional way that Wayne has taught us. in order to celebrate with our
Thank you.
friends and the children from Arabia whose books are being launched, and also the Indigenous child author and the child author on climate change whose book are being launched in French. So everyone who is online, please turn on your camera and raise your hands, and we're going to try to take a picture together of this moment so that especially Saud and Syra and Jonah and Adi can share it with all of their friends around the world. Everybody's trying to get their cameras on. I can see Nico in Winchester College and Abrar. Can we try to get Saud on as well? If you can turn on your camera. And Jennifer, I can see her as well. And Odette, this is wonderful. Congratulations to the children who have worked so hard on their books. We're all raising our hands. Sydney, can we try to get your camera on just quickly? You're the one person we still need. Well done, very good.
Well done. Congratulations,
Probably
one
the
and
one
all.
person who does this often. Thank you. And thank you as well. Thank you, Bella, for being here with us to celebrate. Well done. Thank you. And I would like to just underline one of the things that I find most wonderful about this work is that not only are your books available on Amazon in the usual way, people can order them and they get delivered, but actually also they're available for free through the UNESCO Schools Network, through the website of the Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative in its different languages, including the website and the work of Voices of Future Generations Arabia, who are here to celebrate with us today. And they're also available for free, of course, through the world's largest lesson. And I understand that one of the leaders of that amazing global program is also here with us today, helping to shape these changes. So I can't think of a better group of people to be here with us from these different institutions that are helping to share children's voices for the final sort of short event in this special event, which is a roundtable to hear from any of the kids who are here online and also any of the international leaders and experts, their views to the answers to the questions, which have almost already been answered, really. In particular, the focus questions of how can children contribute to the implementation of SDG 4 in a way that realizes the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And I'm thinking here of the work that Bella has been doing in her own community. I'm thinking of the wise words of Saud, of Anissa, of Syra, also of Nico, and of Abrar, and of Sydney, and of all of the children who have shared videos or messages with us today in terms of the views that have been brought forward. And also, how can children, as voices for future generations, promote climate justice and respond to the threat of climate change and biodiversity loss? What kind of future do children worldwide want to inherit? And how can they bring this to life? So I would like to turn here to some of our guests of honor. I have introduced Advocate Wayne Garnon-Williams already, and he's given a wonderful congratulations to the children. I'm also very happy to introduce Ms. Jessica Cook, who is, of course, a leader of Plan International's climate change policy agenda, chairing the internal Climate Change and Resilience Network, and working on a global level to support strategic thought leadership on resilience for Plan International's priority areas. And especially, Jessica, I want to recognize your focus on the intersection of gender, intergenerational, and climate justice, supporting girls' leadership and engagement and advocacy. I would like to invite any of the children who are online to also make interventions in response to these questions. And I would also like to especially invite, if it's possible, Alison Bellward from World's Largest Lesson, who I understand is listening online and might even be promoted so she could speak, as well as Isabel and Jennifer and the others who are part of the Voices of Future Generation Children's Initiative to engage with us. And I understand that as guest of honor, Dr. Alexandra Harrington, a law professor from the UK and many other countries actually, is also here online. And if we could also bring her into the roundtable together with the children and everyone else who is here, And we would love to hear any of your thoughts, perhaps starting with Wayne, Jessica, and Alexandra, and if possible, our colleague from the world's largest lesson, Alison, in response to these focus questions. And children, you can put your hand up using the little reaction button, or you can just turn on your camera and wave at us, and we'll keep an eye out and try to make sure that you can also say a few words. I understand that Professor Marcus Gehring is here from the University of Cambridge and might also want to comment. What I'm going to do is do a roundtable, go around and just hear your thoughts on any of these 3 questions. And you don't have to address them all. You could focus on the one where you have some special insights you could contribute, starting with Jessica and Wayne, and then over to Alison and Alexandra. Thank you. And Jennifer, who we can also hopefully spotlight with the camera. Wonderful. So Jessica and Wayne.
Jessica, would you like to go first?
Did you want me to go first? Sorry. I saw you'd come off mute, so I wasn't sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been an excellent session already. And I just want to say, you know, although I'm here as an expert, I see myself more as an active listener. And I've learned so much already from the children and the books that they've shared today. So I'm not sure how much more I have to add to the discussion, but I just wanted to highlight a few examples from Plan International on how we're taking some of the children's voices and engaging children themselves in different policy processes, particularly in kind of climate change. And one key example was at COP26 last year, and throughout different international processes last year, we engaged with Transform Education, which is a children and youth network, a feminist network hosted by the UN Girls Education Initiative. And we started this process at the beginning of last year to look at how to better partner with children and youth-led organizations, rather than raising their voices in the spaces, but actually co-creating messages from scratch together so that they had the opportunity to be equal stakeholders in any of these processes. And so we wrote different messages, different tactics, different policy asks around a gender transformative education for climate justice. And it's quite a long expression that we came up with to really try and understand how a different type of education can actually help us to advance climate justice. So we went on this kind of co-creation journey together to really understand what this meant, and really looking at how a different type of education, one that is gender transformative, can create and enable adaptive capacities to the climate crisis, that can create pro-environmental behaviours and can really encourage particularly girls' leadership in different climate processes. And as part of this journey, there was a power shift roundtable of over 6,000 young people who put forward their recommendations to leaders around the G7 process and the Global Partnership for Education Replenishment Summit to really fund girls' education, which is obviously so impacted as well by the climate crisis. And at COP26, we had the opportunity to host an event with many partners, including Malala Fund, UNICEF, and many more, with ministers of education to really help make this kind of intergenerational dialogue, and so that they could share their recommendations directly with decision makers. And as a result of that event, the Minister for Education in Sierra Leone actually approached Plan International to develop to establish a youth advisory group for different types of decision making in education in Sierra Leone. And this was one really great example of how young people are engaging in the decision making around SDG 4 implementation. So I will just stop there. It was one quick example I wanted to share among others, and hand over to, I think it was Wayne who was next.
Oh, thank you. Yes, wonderful. Yeah, I have a bit of a message for the ambassadors and the writers, and that's simply to lead bravely and advocate boldly. Don't be afraid to have your voice ring out. My concern, being the chair of the 60 Scoop Healing Foundation of Canada, goes with equality of Indigenous rights in comparison to the body politic, and specifically focusing on children. We can't forget about the inequalities that exist, and we need to get more funding, more equal opportunities for children, so that they don't have to worry about the basics of whether or not there's a lunch available to them, and they've got warm clothes. There's got to be a balancing. So for those of you who might not know what the 60 Scoop is, I'll just jump back a little bit. There were two major incidents that involved Indigenous children in Canada. One was the Indian residential schools, and the other one was the 60 Scoop. The Indian residential schools, as you're probably well aware, but just for some of those who are not, it was a system of mandatory boarding schools for Indigenous peoples in Canada, the United States, New Zealand, and Australia. And the school system was created, and it's using a loose term, the school. It was to isolate Indigenous people from the influence of their own Indigenous culture and religion in order to assimilate them into the dominant culture. And there were 150,000 children that were placed into residential schools. A number of children still are suffering from the traumatic effects as adults, and as a result, there's intergenerational trauma from that's being passed on to the next generation and the next generation. So it's breaking that cycle. Part of the breaking that cycle is funding. And just a little bit about the 60 Scoop for some of you who don't understand what the 60 Scoop is. It's a variation of that, where in the 1960s, starting in the 1950s and going to the 60s and 70s, there was a series of government initiatives to scoop children from their families against their will and place them into non-Indigenous families to eradicate the culture and language. And there are upwards of about 25,000 First Nation, Métis, and Inuit that were forcibly removed from their homes. So that's what the 60 Scoop is. And we still have this sort of thing today. It's called the Millennium Scoop. And that happens today. That was a term coined by Dr. Jackie Maurice, wherein today in Canada, 52% of children in foster care are Indigenous. But Indigenous children account for only 7% of the child population in Canada. That's a huge disparity. And that means when you look at the crunch the numbers, about 15,000 of the 29,000 foster children in private homes under the age of 15 are Indigenous. So we have to look at this systemic bias. We have to look at trying to find equality, and we have to have a universal standard for child health care and education, so that all children can have an equal chance at creating the world for tomorrow. And I just want to touch base on the fact that one advocate, Cindy Blackstock of Canada, has been leading the fight against inequality of Indigenous youth education for years. And recently, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal in 2019 found that the federal government was willfully and recklessly discriminating against First Nation people, specifically children, and as a result of this clear discrimination in education funding, the government was forced to pay $40,000 per each victim, but that is still going on. So it's that kind of thing where we have to look at equalizing it and getting it out there. And one of the things that's a great equalizer is, to answer this question, is how can they get involved? Well, the youth website or blog, the Harmony for Youth Views on Science, Law, and Sustainability, which is something that was started from this august body, is out there and available for the youth to participate. And I encourage the current authors to keep contributing to their writing passion, and contribute to the Harmony Youth Views on Science, Law, and Sustainability, and have your voices heard through the website, through the web blog, because there's, I guess, publications ideally quarterly, and there's a youth editorial group, and it's focused on the youth making contributions to have a voice heard and to have that voice looked at around the world. And it's a great leveler, it's the great equalizer, so that youth can have a voice. So that would be my advocate is, again, lead bravely, advocate boldly, and go out there and make your voices heard. Thanks.
Thank you, Jessica and Wayne. You are so right, both of you. And Jessica, one of the things I often start with in speeches I have to give on climate change at the UN and other places is that without those young people out on the streets, the Paris Agreement would already be dead in the water. They are they are the voices that are implementing these international law commitments. And Wayne is completely right. You know, I'm speaking as a proud parent of small children who ran out and joined those strikes and kept doing them online, you know, with photographs and with collages and with whatever they could during the pandemic. We will never underestimate that power and that voice that is needed to literally address this existential threat and to bring forward action on these justice issues that all of the children have highlighted, especially Sydney, especially Anissa, especially, you know, Saira and Saud and Bar in their interventions as well. So Wayne, thank you for underscoring how much work still needs to be done, and places where, as they graduate and they are no longer children, the youth can also have their voices heard. And I want to send a special thank you to Portia and to Catherine, who are, together with Jonah, senior editors of that journal that you've just highlighted that is published online. And it is a very exciting venue. I'm now going to turn to Alison and to Alexandra, to Alison Bellwood and Dr. Alexander Harrington. And then I would like to ask if Jennifer and Marcus could just say one sentence each to help us to round this up. We will then turn back to any of the children who are online to see if they'd like to add more to all of the incredible messages they've already communicated, and then to Isabel, OBE, to help close. So Alison and Alexandra.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to meet you. This is a surprise and a very welcome opportunity to say hello. I've really enjoyed listening to you all today. Let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Alison Bellwood and I'm the founder of The World's Largest Lesson. So a lot of your books are on our website and they're through us. Thousands and thousands of people have been able to read them. So keep them coming. We love them. And just to explain a little bit about what we're trying to do generally and then specifically now, our mission is to use the SDGs in the classroom wherever we can in any way possible to help students just like you understand some of the issues that are going on in the world and feel something for them so much that they then are driven to act. And there's loads of different ways that you can take action. And what I love about the work that you are all doing is that you're using your writing skills, your creative skills and your artistic skills to raise awareness for these issues. And one of the things I like most about the stories and arts in activism is that you can do a couple of things at the same time. You can both share kind of knowledge and understanding of a problem, but you can add the emotion that we all feel around those issues. I think we all feel quite strongly about climate change and the environment, and sometimes we find it difficult to express that emotion. So it's amazing to see that coming through in all of the books that you're writing. But we also feel strongly about some of the other issues that we see around us. We feel strongly about education. We feel strongly about hunger. We feel strongly about working together and wanting to see the world working together more and to not see any conflict at all. So those emotions that come through the books that you're writing are really amazing and really welcome. And I think they do a great job to help other children think about those feelings too. So thank you for everything you're doing in that regard. And specifically right now, we're doing some very special work for SDG 4, and a lot of you have talked about SDG 4 today. And Isabel mentioned the Transforming Education Summit that is happening. Gosh, it starts next weekend. And on the 16th, there is a youth day, very special day. I think there are 2,000 young people coming to the UN, and lots of things happening to enable young people to take part. One of the things that the World's Largest Lesson is trying to do is make space for younger students to participate and share their opinions. There are opportunities for young people who are kind of usually 18 or over, and we think that there should be more space for students who are currently at school. and that includes you. So what we'd love you to do is we've created a survey. It's quite playful. It's not quite a game, but it's a little bit gamified. And it takes about 10 minutes to do. And we'd love you to take part on the link that Isabel shared for the Transforming Education Summit for the Youth Engagement Day. The link to that survey is there. It's in lots of languages already and more to come. And we're trying to find out what you think about education. We're trying to find out what you feel now that schools have opened after COVID. We want to kind of gather as much understanding from students right now about what they feel. We want to know how you like to learn best. We want to know what you'd like your school to perhaps stop doing. We'd like to know what you'd like to learn more about. You've talked a lot about some of those things today. We'd like to capture that in data so that we can make a difference with the information that you share. And we'd love to know what you'd like to reinvent about education. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to publish it all in a big report at the end of January on International Day of Education. And we're going to make sure that governments get to see that data and see what you think and contribute to the transformation of education. So I would love, not just for you individually to fill in that survey, I would like you to take that survey to your school if you can, and perhaps ask your friends, ask your school leaders if you can, to share it amongst the other students and your friends at school. See how many you can get to fill it in, because the more people that fill it in, the louder your voices will be as a younger generation, and the bigger and better the transformation of education will be. So that's my request. You can also look on the World's Largest Lesson website, because there's more things you can do to support transformation of education. There's posters you can make. There's a lesson you can teach on World Children's Day, if you like. So please do all of that. And I'd love to be able to stay and listen to the rest, but I can't, sadly. I've got to go. But thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak, and congratulations again.
Thanks to you, Alison. And we will send out to all of the children and the others in the network. I think there's about 800 children that have from 120 countries that have attended the Voices of Future Generations eco-seminars and other events over the last 3 years through the pandemic. So we will send out the invitation to submit blogs and to submit stories for the Harmony journal that Wayne highlighted. We will also send them the invitation to, that was amazing, teach a lesson, and then also to fill out the survey that you have just highlighted so that they can encourage others in their school to fill it out as well. One of the crucial things that I think is so wonderful about the way that the Voices of Future Generations, child ambassadors and child authors work together is that there are young people from nearly all continents, and they can reach out to others from across all continents, bringing in voices that are often not heard. And that is super important, and it's a collaboration that is crucial. And in that spirit, I should also just mention that while the dialogue is going on, there was a question that was raised on the Q&A from Maria Adriana Guibaur Munoz, who was asking how we can bring these voices and this passion, including from Nico Roman, to more children in Latin America. And Nico has proposed that we hold an online workshop for the Americas in their time zone during what is his Christmas break. He says he's learning Spanish. And he wants to be able to hold that workshop. And if there's anybody here in the group or in our network who speaks Spanish as well, that workshop could especially be to outreach to other children from across Latin America, because we haven't had a child author from Latin America for a couple of years now, and it would be really, really lovely to be able to engage with them. So I think that would be maybe one idea that has also just come up. And I'm, without further ado, going to turn to Professor Alexandra and also Professor Marcus to say a last couple of words.
Thank you so much, Mary Claire. And I will not take a great deal of time except to say congratulations, first of all of you. I remember these projects when they were much younger, and to see them grow and to see this whole process grow, and the success, especially during the pandemic, of being so engaged is just, it really is amazing. So it's a proud moment. What I wanted to address was the idea of climate justice. And I wanted to stress two things to all of you as interested individuals, as potential activists, both now and into the future. The first thing, actually, which fits in perfectly with the comments about Latin America and bridging in general, is that climate justice issues that you're feeling at home, whether it be climate change or biodiversity, wherever home is, are typically very similar to those issues that are being felt by many other children and youth across the world. And when we think about climate justice, we often think about the idea of litigation and children who are very brave and very passionate coming together to have lawsuits in various jurisdictions, typically at home. Which is critical and important. And we've seen the importance of this escalate dramatically over the past number of years, which is great. But don't forget also that there are many of you who share experiences, who share understandings and insights, who can talk to each other. And this network and this group of students and young people coming together is a really great way to share that and to share those insights, so we can have an idea of climate justice that isn't just based in one country, but actually really moves beyond it. The other point to make in your advocacy and in thinking about your role as an advocate today and tomorrow and in the years that follow is that the Child Rights Convention and many other human rights instruments conceive of and remind us that children are not just the same throughout the entire time that they are legally children. You as a baby, you as a 5-year-old, you now, however old you are, and you at 18 will be very different. And the impact of that is that your understanding will be different and your perception will be different. So don't feel like you are always going to be stuck as a child. In the view of being a child, if you are younger, you will grow, your views will grow. And as your views grow, it is important to incorporate that into your advocacy and to know what you're advocating for as a principle, but also how you experience it, and then how you take that evolving capacity that we hear about in the Child Rights Convention and apply it to your own advocacy for climate justice. So I expect wonderful things from all of you. I will take very little time other than to hand over to Marcus now and say thank you all for the invitation. And it really is an honor to be with you today. So thank you.
Thank you. And I will turn over to Marcus. I think you had a final word.
Yes, thank you very much. Congratulations to all the children involved in this fantastic initiative. You're implementing not just international norms and treaties with your work, with your educational work, peer learning and education in schools and publishing. You're also realizing the very latest customary international law, right? Which is the right to a clean, healthy, sustainable environment, which we should all enjoy all over the world. And the only way to enjoy that right is by realizing the Sustainable Development Goals, and you're all helping. So congratulations from me, based in the University of Cambridge, to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we are going to look at so many wonderful opportunities to continue this work. Before we reach out to Isabel to ask us to ceremonially close this event, I just want to check back with the children who are still online with us, with Bella, with Sydney, with Saud, with Anissa, with Syra, with Abrar. Would any of you like to add any last messages from what you've heard in this intergenerational dialogue? You have made such good speeches that you don't have to, but in case you want to, we're just opening up the floor for you. And you just have to turn on your camera and wave, and we'll ask you. Oh, Abrar, there we are. It's fitting that you would have the the closing comment?
Yeah. So for on some things that children can do. So sorry, one second.
You know how sometimes you click on it and it turns on and then off again.
Yeah.
Get going.
Now the button isn't working. Wait a minute.
Oh, don't worry.
Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, hello. So some things that children can do in terms of climate change, we can encourage, first of all, we can always encourage adults to use less private transport, use more public transport, carpool when taking us to school and other things. And we can always take part in activities with, for example, mangrove planting. Over here in the Middle East, we have a lot of mangrove planting. Mangroves are very cool. They pull carbon out of the sky. They are able to survive in seawater. They freshen the water. They provide shelter for biodiversity. They do super cool things. So you can partake in these activities. And you can you can improve your diet to include if you don't want to go vegetarian, which is also a good option, you can improve your diet by specifically choosing ethically raised or farm grown animals that are not, especially seafood that is not part of overfishing, because overfishing has become a huge problem recently. And you can just encourage adults and do things yourself as well. You can also discourage consumerism. There's a recent trend showing up of something called fast fashion, which is these cheap clothes which show up on the market for short periods of time, and they're super harmful to the environment, not only because a lot of resources are wasted, but also in terms of shipping and the making of those clothes, the factories, the cargo ships. And there's actually I don't know if it was a recent study, but there was a study to show how cargo ships affect whales. And there was a tracker placed on a whale, and it showed that a whale was stuck trying to travel across the Pacific because there were so many cruise ships passing by, and each time it would get scared and go the other way, and then other way, and then the poor thing was trapped. It couldn't get to where it was. So all these things we can do. Another thing sort of tying in with that is local produce, organic produce, hydroponic produce. Emirates recently announced a massive indoor garden over here. And that is also a more sustainable way of eating vegetables and fruits and other plants. And things we can do at home, we can use our food waste at home to enrich our soil and plant a tree. It's a small thing, but every little thing adds up to make a big difference. And we can plant local trees for your areas to promote biodiversity for your areas. Like in places like the UK, cats, for example, are invasive species. So many birds, combined with the chopping down of trees for more space, many bird species were going close to endangered because cats were hunting them down. They weren't used to cats, and their homes were disappearing. So local trees promote biodiversity and saving of water. I think that's all I have. Saving power. You can install solar power depending on where you live, maybe even a teeny wind turbine. One of our neighbors has one. It doesn't produce too much power, but it charges up a little battery. And in terms of saving water, you can use watering your plants outside. You can do that wisely, making sure you're just giving them enough, and in your home as well.
Mm-hmm. And maybe in some parts of the world, collecting rainwater and being able to use
Yeah, that's also the thing. Over here, we don't get too much rain though. There was a lot of rain recently. There's entire flooding, but not in our area specifically.
Yeah.
Over here, we got no rain.
We're in the fens, and the drought was
England, it's raining all the time, except for now.
Yeah. Well, we've been happy that it finally started raining again. But I'm glad to hear from you that people being careful about water is high on your list, and you're completely right about power as well. All those lifestyle changes that make such a difference, right?
Yeah. And recently there's been news of, I don't know if you know, but in South Korea, there was relentless rain. I think it was the most rain within the last 90 years, I think. And then right after that stopped, they've had like a typhoon come in, a super typhoon. So, and this has been proven to be as a byproduct of climate change and weather patterns changing. So yeah, that's about all I have.
And I should thank you, Abrar. And I should actually highlight that one of our first child authors was invited to Taiwan to welcome one of the first Asian child authors in a ceremony. And that while he was there, his 11-year-old child, Hurricane Saudalor hit the country. And watching all of the Taiwanese hosts and the children circling around to protect their international friends, while they were also trying to prepare their country for the worst typhoon that they'd had in many years, was just such a poignant reminder of the impacts of climate change, but also the resilience and the courage of children, of people everywhere who are trying to help each other to get through this. And on that note, I will turn to Isabel.
Actually, can I say one more thing?
Go ahead, Abrar.
Yeah, you just reminded me, there's drastic weather. So over in South Korea, it's been relentlessly raining. Now they have typhoons, they had flooding. But if you go to China, there's an intense drought there, and the world's third largest river has almost completely dried up.
Yeah.
So these massive like changes in weather. In England, it was raining, then suddenly it was so hot and so dry, and then wet again. And then over here as well, we weren't supposed to get that much rain and flooding in this season. So weather patterns are shifting and drastic weather, you know. So I just wanted to add that.
That's a very good point. I could see Anissa briefly online, and also I can see Sydney, who is still with us, and Bella, who are still with us. You don't have to say anything, but would you like to? Because if you would, we're happy to turn to you. I think you've already given amazing messages, and you've already inspired us so well. And so have you, Abrar. It's very fitting that we would be able to turn to you for a few final words of advice and ideas in this intergenerational dialogue. And to remind us all that maybe it's social media, maybe it's the internet, I'm not sure, but this idea that children live in bubbles and don't know what's happening to other children around the world, don't know what's happening to everyone around the world. It's time to end that, because we have to see the willingness of kids like Abrar to speak out for others who can't be there, even if it's just not their time zone, and to care about what is happening for them. There was a climate strike in the city of Cambridge that was about the wildfires hurting children and also koalas in Australia. And as the children marched through the streets, they stood up for their Australian friends. And I think that is part of the generosity, the vision, the understanding that we all need more of in this world. I can see Anissa's online, so I'm going to ask you if you'd like to add one or two just extra messages of ideas. And I can see Bella's also online. So I'm going to ask if we can give Bella the microphone with a bit less surprise this time. She's actually been allowed to know that she's allowed to say something and given a chance to think about it. And then we're going to turn to Isabel and close. Anissa and then Bella.
Okay, thank you. I really just wanted to add that I believe we can promote climate justice and respond to the environmental threats at hand by promoting research and human care for our world. For example, I grew up watching a show called Wildcrats, which taught me a lot about how important all life on Earth is. So I believe that if children utilize media and storytelling, we can convince people how important these causes are, especially using the interconnectivity of tools like social media, which is what I wanted to add.
Really good point, Anissa. And you've been an amazing child ambassador throughout, and we can't wait to bring you into the youth programming very soon too. There's lots of people waiting for you. Bella, please.
I also just wanted to add one thing, that I saw the other day is that like a lot of foods in grocery stores come from like miles away, like probably even possibly the other side of the world. So something that me and my papa started to do is we have our own gardens. We grow potatoes, peppers, carrots. We have an apple tree, and we also make our own pickles. But something we also do is that we buy local foods instead. So
That's a really good idea. And it's something that all over the world people can do, and it might be really different foods in each place. And that's part of also being healthy and being local and identity and culture and language, you know? So thank you, Bella. That's a really good point. And it's a good point to end on in terms of practical changes. If Wezi was here, the child ambassador from Zambia, he sent us pictures of the garden that he's been growing in Lusaka. And I think he would be 100% on your side with that point, because it was exactly what he was saying. You know, this is what I can do right now here. I can change what I eat, and I can change the patterns and the lifestyles, just like Abrar was also saying. So thank you. Isabel, the floor is yours to help us to close this wonderful event. And I know you have an incredible CV, and you've already been introduced.
Don't introduce me, please. Except I go, as well as Isabel Abul-Hul, I go by Mansour, which is mother of Mansour, because I've got 5 children but only 1 son, and that's Mansour. So I'm often called just Mansour. So there we go. And that is introduction enough. So today you have asked me to do the closing remarks on International Literacy Day, which is one of the most important days of the year for me, because if we talk about the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, quality education, how can you provide quality education if children can't read and write? And what I say is they may be taught to read at school, they may understand the mechanics, but they don't ever really get to understand what the words are saying. And the research is showing that more and more children at the age of 10 are unable to read and comprehend an age-appropriate text. This is both research in the UK, research across the Middle East and in America. So we are failing children, not just in the developing world, but in the developed world, because they are not getting the access to books, that enough information is not getting to parents about how important it is to read to your children, to enjoy stories together. So, and I was thinking about, we say UN SDGs, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. What better example for United Nations when we're our child ambassadors, we're our child authors today, across, as you said, Marie-Claire, across the continents, across the world. They are united in a common cause, and listening to each one of them with what they were saying, I was so impressed. They were talking intelligently, they were talking with justice uppermost, they were talking about what matters, not for them, but for the future and for future generations, for the world we share. So nations need to be united. Young people are united if we give them that voice, which Voices of Future Generations has given them. And a huge thank you to Marie-Claire, because I know you have been at the heart of this wonderful initiative. And justice, so justice for all. So I was thinking about what Abrar was saying, and I know that the United Arab Emirates is a relatively young country. It's celebrated 50 years. But because they're a young country, they have been able to sort of somehow leapfrog in some ways. So if you build a new property, if you build a new villa or a new, any building, by law, that's justice, you have to include solar power, because we live in a hot climate. So there is no option. It's not a case of if you would like to. Solar power is essential. So all hot water to that building is provided by solar power. That's just the beginning. They also make all roofs they have to be reflective of heat. So you can't have this color or that color. And these are small things. The vertical farming, because water is very scarce, where you can grow organically, but with no wastage of water. I was so impressed by Abra and his understanding, and everyone's, of the world around them, whether it was the climate march in Cambridge for Australia because of the fires, knowledge that's shown about, you know, shopping locally, growing your own produce. The children have been incredible. I don't even think they're children. I mean, their minds are sort of so full of ways to help. We need to empower them to carry out what they want. And that's down to justice, to make sure that the laws of the land, the laws of our planet, allow them to have the world they want to inhabit. So I would just like to say that stories are really, really important. And Voices of Future Generations is a vital initiative that weaves the Sustainable Development Goals and rights of the child into exciting adventure stories written by young people. Human beings love stories from the beginning of times. We are the only creature on this planet that has developed writing systems, various languages, ways of producing books that can be shared for hundreds and thousands of years. They stay, and that is a huge resource for us that we can learn from. So, you know, these young writers today are producing books that can be read 1,000 years from now, and they will look back and say, gosh, they were ahead of their time. Look what they were thinking about. And I think that's amazing. And I also want to say that reading for pleasure and reading in general is intrinsically linked with an ability to learn for the rest of your life. So we need to make sure that we are giving good stories, that we're encouraging children to read and also to write. And, you know, the peer-to-peer part of Voices of Future Generation, where young people are writing for young people, I think is a hugely important one. And I just would like to say to the authors who launched their books today, Saoud Al-Kaabi, Sarah Thomas, Adeline Newman-Ting and Jonah David, who had their books written translated into French, huge congratulations. And they covered Sustainable Development Goals 5, 9, 10, 13, 15, 16 and 17. And I'm not going to ask our panel, test them. Do you know those? Of course you do. And the children know them off by heart. I found the roundtable discussion fascinating, and I learned so many things. You know, how the Sustainable Development Goals came into being, you know, how all those nations, I think it was 192, signed up to them. And we urgently need to deliver more on those Sustainable Development Goals. And all of the children, not just those who've had their books published, but all of the children globally who've been part of Voices of the Future Generations, a huge thank you to you, because you will have garnered a lot of knowledge. And whether your book is published or not, it doesn't matter. You are on the journey to making the world a better place. And I would like to also pay tribute for Voices of Future Generations Arabia to Her Highness Sheikha Hafsa bint Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who has been spearheading and behind all of us to get this show on the road. And every single part of it she gets involved in, and she herself is very, very behind anything that is going to make our environment and more sustainable and better than anyone. So having her support has been hugely important. And of course, Jennifer, who's director of the Voices of Future Generations, never stops. She is passionate and she leads by example. So we are so lucky to have Jennifer as part of and leading the team, and Sheikha Hafsa, who has made it all possible and continues to give every support to all of the young writers in our region. Marie-Claire, you have been amazing, but it was also wonderful to hear the message from Professor Anne Skelton, and the other Isabelle Lever-Chiasson, for her, who I think is UNESCO in Canada, and also Advocate Wayne Garland-Williams, who spoke so passionately and really, really touched me, both in my head and in my heart. So thank you for your amazing words. And Ella, you have done the most amazing job at keeping us on the show, on the road with so many different speakers. So from me here in Dubai, a huge thank you for the opportunities that Voices of the Future Generations has given us, and to all the children living in this region. You know, my heart sings today, so thank you. And thank you to all of you for what you do and continue to do so well.
Isabel, your vision, your passion, the work that you do on the ground for literacy is without measure. And I will add to your thanks, not just to Her Highness Sheikha Hissa bin Hamdan bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who is, I understand, online listening with us, but also to Gabrielle Sakonagi-Bacon of the Moore Foundation in the Americas, Helene Cotter of Europe, Jessica Swiden as well, and Melinda Beyer, and all the members of the Leadership Council who make this possible, make this work possible, as well as our partners from UNESCO who've been there with us right from the beginning, with His Excellency, the Vice President of the International Court of Justice, Judge Christopher Greggy Mantri of Sri Lanka, who is no longer with us, and the former Ombudsman for Future Generations, Professor Judge Marcel Sabo, who could not be with us today, but is such a strong supporter of our work. I mean, it takes a global village to raise a child, and it takes an incredible global network to raise a Voices of Future Generations Children's Initiative. So I would like to close this roundtable with the warmest of thanks, adding my thanks to others, to Alison, to Ella, to Odette, to all of our team that are online that have done so much work, mainly as volunteers, to make this happen. And I'd actually like to close in what is possibly a fitting tribute to some of the first children in this initiative that Isabel was able to meet and to learn about. And in particular, I'm thinking about Tyra from Papua New Guinea, who was one of the first child authors in this series. And she came across before COVID to speak in the UK's House of Lords, tiny little 9-year-old girl in high tops. And I remember in her speech, she was talking about Brexit and about people being unfriendly to migrants and to children who were vulnerable. And she said, I don't know if you understand, but I'm from Papua New Guinea, but I can read, you know. We can hear you even way over in Papua New Guinea when you talk about people like me being somehow not welcome or not worthy of respect. And you will hear us. You will learn to hear us for our future. And I think that that is probably the best way to explain why literacy is so important and why we're all here today. So thank you, Isabel, and thanks to everyone online. And thanks to all of the children, especially, for making sure that we hear you. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. On behalf of the Voices of Future Generations team, I would like to express my appreciation to all participants, speakers, chairs, and guests of honor for celebrating the launch of UNESCO Voices of Future Generations books. You can expect to receive a message from us with the recording of this event and other resources in the coming days. We wish you a wonderful rest of your day and hope to see you again in next events.
Thank you.